How do you maximize performance with your sales force? My name is Anthony Garcia, and I'm the host of the Catapulting Commissions podcast. Join me every week as we discuss topics such as performance or improving retention, and we do so by interviewing some of the top sales professionals and entrepreneurs around the world. Now, let's enjoy the show. Catapulting Commissions family, welcome back. I'm incredibly excited to have you with me today. Today, we're going to dive into an episode. We're going to talk so much more than just the typical sales strategies. If you've been listening to the show and following along, you know that we are very passionate about sales leadership and leadership principles overall. Today's guest is Chuen Chuen Yeo. She's a multi-award-winning executive coach based in Singapore, where she's working with clients both in government and private sectors. She serves clients from more than 30 countries across 5 continents and has been doing so since 2013. Chuen Chuen has extensive experience working with a wide range of business leaders from various industries, coaching them to develop the agility mindset. This increases their ability to navigate the complexities of today's workplace and lead effectively. In her coaching practice, Chuen Chuen uses her RE4 coaching model to help clients create behaviors which drive towards desired outcomes. Her approach promotes the strong alignment and congruence between values, beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and actions. This allows leaders to generate deep insights, and Chuen Chuen facilitates these translations of these into powerful motivation. She blends the many approaches and techniques which are well-grounded in research seamlessly and brings clients through a tailor-made experience to meet their best needs. Her coaching effectiveness is proven with her long-term relationship with returning clients, referrals, and highly satisfied clients. As one of her clients has said in the past, Chuen Chuen's program is the only leaders program needed to take. Beyond helping her clients in such areas as communication, negotiation, stakeholder engagement, and holding yourself accountable, she enables her clients to emerge with personal and internal beliefs through the agility mindset. Her best-selling book, The 8 Paradoxes of Leadership Agility, is a collection of short stories of transformation based on her RE4 coaching model. And today, all the way from Singapore, we have Chuen Chuen Yeo. Chuen Chuen, welcome to the Catapulting Commission Show.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Fantastic, Chuen Chuen. I'm so excited to have you here, and I love the background. I did some research. I looked up the book. I actually purchased the book and was able to get some of the information downloaded through my Kindle app, so I really appreciate you sharing that link with me ahead of time. Now, can we talk a little bit here, Chuen Chuen? Your business is based in leadership, and on this show, we discuss sales topics or sales leadership, and sometimes that sales leadership and leadership goes hand in hand. Can you walk me through your background a bit and share with me where you've learned your leadership skills? Not only where you've learned them, but where did you develop the passion to make this your life's work?
Sure. I think a lot of people, they might not know I was a computer engineer by training. So I think that equipped me with a lot of logical thinking and things like that. But at the same time, I also learned music for a long time. I think most people might say that I'm quite an accomplished pianist. Because I learned piano for more than 15 years. So I think the result is that both my left and right brains are pretty active, as I did one of the tests. When I did the Harrison's assessment, that was one of the takeaways from the career coach at that time. So, oh wow, both your left and right brains are really active. But I think that really shapes the kind of person that I became. I spent quite a number of years as a school teacher and working with a really diverse group of people, stakeholders, be it the young ones or my bosses or my boss's boss. So because of the way my brain works, I was always able to see the connections between ideas that were very different, and at the same time in tune with my own emotions, always reflecting on my experiences. And I think that is probably the greatest influence in my whole leadership development, or even discovering that I have this passion. I was always sensing what were the moments where I felt most fulfilled, that I felt that even if I'm not paid, I'm willing to do this job. And that for me was uncovering the immense potential in every single person who I was working with back then. Where did I learn leadership principles? I think Dr. John Maxwell was one of the greatest influences. I spent over a year studying his leadership teachings under the John Maxwell team program.
Hmm.
So I'm a certified John Maxwell coach. And up to today, it's been so many years, I still remember how it felt to see him in person in Orlando. How many years? 7 years back?
Wow.
And yeah, in fact, every time that picture floats up in my Facebook feed, I will remember it, some tears, it's like so touching. Yeah, so touched because it was really a growth that I experienced as an adult until today when I work with corporate clients. His principles are still so relevant. And I tell my clients the laws of leadership that he came up with so much.
I like what you said there, Chuen Chuen. I'm a big fan of John Maxwell myself. I've read several of his books, and I'm very familiar with his curriculum and his program. A couple things you said here that I want to piggyback on. You mentioned that in your experience, you've been able to identify and get people to see their full potential, right? And when you identify or you get someone to identify to see their full potential, what does that conversation look like? Because I know that for me, I manage a sales team, and sometimes, I have people who are self-doubting themselves, right? They're become their own worst critic. How do you get someone to see their potential? What does that process look like?
Mm. The process, I think it is to help them switch the mindset from saying that I can't do this to what if I try this? I think rule of thumb is if you don't try, you never know. How do you know until you put yourself out there and get some feedback and use the feedback to feed forward into your next move? So I think a lot of these conversations, when there are a lot of self-limiting beliefs that come in, and you can usually tell from the words that they say, if they are coming from a place of fixed mindset that they can't accomplish something, people won't like me, they won't buy from me, things like that. All it takes is to ask the right questions and ask them, what if? Well, okay, I understand how you are feeling, how you're seeing it, it seems impossible. I think the immediate part is to validate them first, validate their emotions because it is their reality. So once you validate the emotions, then the next thing is, what if we do X, Y, Z? How would it look like?
I like what you're saying there, Trent, about validating the emotions because in sales, one of the things we teach and we discuss is trial closing. And typically, when we're trial closing or we're handling objections, and the two sometimes go hand in hand, if someone's going to give me an objection, the worst thing that a sales professional can do is ignore that objection, make it unvalid, make the prospect feel like you're the only person in the world that has this objection. I can't believe, right? When you isolate somebody like that, then they believe it, they don't want to do business with you, they clam up. You're saying in that same capacity, when you're in that role of leadership and your job is to extract someone's best potential and they have those fears, I'm going to acknowledge those fears, right? I'm going to empathize with you, but then we're going to say, what if?
Yes.
And let's find somewhere to move to the next deal. Now, when you tell those people to move to that next deal about that what if, are you giving them a strategy? Are you giving them a goal to go after? Are you, what is that? Okay, so you got me there, Chuen Chuen. I'm ready to move forward. What if? Now, what is it that what is the motivating factor to get me to do the what if portion?
What is the motivating factor? I think a lot of this is from Stephen Covey. Begin with the end in mind. I want them to, part of my strategy is to help them construct such a visual and sensory experience in their minds first. What if you could achieve that? What would that look like? What would that feel like, sound like? How would you be different? So when they are totally invested because they are so inspired by their own dream, and because they have constructed it so clearly in their minds, they know the full package, they know how would they be different, how would they feel. That becomes the motivating force for them to move forward. If now that is my end goal, how do I now work backwards and break it down into smaller milestones, and then they will naturally know what is the next step they have to take to bring themselves closer to that dream.
I like that. You're painting a picture, they're visualizing that picture, they're visualizing the level of success. And by reverse engineering, you give small, bite sized chunks to go after, which I think is a phenomenal tool that I don't think we utilize enough, right? When you get into sales leadership and when you're in a position of leadership or power, there's so much pressure to perform. And so, let's just say, you run a business unit that needs to produce $200 million in revenue. It's really easy to get, oh my goodness, I have to produce $200 million in revenue versus I need to do this on a daily basis. I need to do this by 9 a.m. I need to do this by 12 noon, right? So once we simplify it, we reverse engineer it. I like that. Now, in the world of leadership, Chuen Chuen, I'm reading a quote here. Total Prestige magazine called you the secret weapon needed for businessmen and women to become the best they can be in the executive world. Kudos to you for that. Now, the executive world is highly competitive. Some would say it's borderline cutthroat. Now, as people make a transition to sales leadership, what are some of the keys for success for sales leaders in this competitive market space?
So some ways for what are the key steps for sales leaders to stand out amidst competition?
Absolutely.
All right. I think it's very much linked to what I've mentioned before. There is the connecting with the emotions that is very required. And I think this by itself is probably a paradox. All of us rise through the corporate ranks being an individual contributor. We got to develop our subject matter expertise and be specialists in whatever that we are doing, whichever business lines. And it's the same in sales as well. But as we continue to perform and people acknowledge and recognize us for it, we start to step into their leadership role. And here's the real paradox. You were very successful as a specialist, but when you become a leader, you have to become a generalist again. It's no longer enough to be good in what you're doing. You got to be good with people. So when you are dealing with all types of people, everyone has emotions. I think human beings are emotional creatures. So a lot of my clients, when I work with them, this is probably one of the first understanding that they realize that it's no longer good enough to use hard facts and that I'm right. My expertise tells me that I'm right, but being right is never going to be enough anymore. As long as you become a sales leader, you have to validate the emotions first, because there's no such thing called the right emotions or the wrong emotions. Every emotion, every feeling is a reality that the person is experiencing, and the best way to lower that is to validate those emotions first. Then you will become a good salesperson, a good sales leader. So I think connecting with the emotion at the emotional level is key. The second, so that is part of doing a real reality check. Are things working? How are people reacting to you? Is your team performing? Do you draw out the best or the worst in them? Do they leave the one-on-one meetings with you and feeling all fired up and motivated?
Yeah.
Those are always signals that are always present, but it takes an observant and a self-aware sales leader to notice those signals and learn and be curious. Oh, how come I'm getting this kind of response? How is this different from how my customers deal with me, respond to me, or how my bosses respond to me? So I think that reality check is quite important. And thereafter, look at what are the bias and the assumptions. Many times, because we've been doing something so long and we have become an expert in something, we assume that things will run the way as they have always had, say for the past 10, 20 years. But right now, I think leading in any business line, sales is the same. Is not going to be predictable. We live in a VUCA world. Our clients, our stakeholders have changed. We have 5 or even 6 generations of people in the workforce altogether. So their priorities are going to be different. So am I making assumptions? Am I biased unconsciously? Should I check those? And it takes some form of, elevating your consciousness to a certain level to be able to see those. And that's where I think coaching is very effective, because there were many times where I work with sales leaders in my one-on-one coaching engagements, and when I asked some really, really curious question, and they stopped and paused and They say, oh wow, I didn't notice that I had that. Especially when they go about almost like renting, because the way it's a safe space, right? So they will really offload whatever that was top of mind. And when I could see a pattern, and I will reflect it back to them, and they will stop and pause and check themselves. So knowing what your assumptions and biases are, I think everyone has them. Overgeneralizing probably would be a huge danger. And I think once these two steps are in place, knowing what's the reality, what is the real reality, it's not virtual, it's not virtual reality. It must be the real, unbiased, courageous assessment of what is really happening, and checking the bias and assumptions. Then the sales leader is primed to change the mindset, to shift the mindset, so that the performance can be much better. Because now working with teams is a totally different ballgame.
I couldn't agree more with what you said there, Chuen Chuen. There is so much value in that last few minutes, right? If you have to pause right now and rewind and rehear what Chuen Chuen said, she dropped so much value and nuggets. And we're going to have this recap in the show notes on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, website, however you're listening to this podcast today, or you're watching it on YouTube, then your show notes will be in the video below. However, with that being said, I want to circle back and I just want to recap a few things. What I really like you said, the emotions, there's no right or wrong emotions, right? It is so enlightening to hear you say that, because there's a group of people who are listening to this show right now, and sometimes they feel guilty or oppressed for having a certain set of feelings or emotions that their sales leader brushes off, right? If you think about it, it's like the old boys club, right? Like, we do business our way. We've always done business this way. Oh, you're frustrated or your feelings are hurt about this. Suck it up, buttercup. I mean, all of that is no longer applicable. All of that is no longer efficient. And industries that still exist that way are starting to become smaller and smaller, and they're starting to be exposed that they're not providing true leadership. And I also like how you made the transition that once you become a sales leader, right, you become a generalist. You now become someone's influence in their life. And your conversation with the people you lead can be a little bit of everything. And I know from my experiences, I've been very successful in my individual contributor role, selling a product, generating revenue. But when it came to managing a team of 10 people, or managing a team of 100 people, or managing a team of 150 people, I remember sitting there saying, okay, if I only have 5 minutes with you, how do I impact you? If I'm gonna spend 8 hours with you today on a car ride or a field ride, or we're gonna go travel to a conference together, what conversations am I gonna have that's gonna have a lasting impact? And that skill right there is one of those things that sales leaders, they're not taught. There's no manual. Like, you go from a high individual contributor to, hey, do this with your sales team. You start learning it through some of that emotional intelligence, is kind of what you described to me there, where you're starting to look at your people as your business, not necessarily generating revenues. Is that a fair recap of what we just shared?
Yeah, I definitely. And I think one of the things that popped up in my mind as you were speaking was, it probably wouldn't matter so much to the team what you know. So telling them is not an effective way. I think that's probably like another major shift for sales leaders to embrace, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care for them. That's from John Maxwell as well.
Absolutely. I know we've heard that for years, and it can never be truer, even to this day. I really believe, and I know that I have gone to business meetings, I've gone to board meetings, I've gone to executive quarterly reviews with my vice presidents or my CEOs, and I say, hey, I'm going to defend, or I'm going to talk a little bit about the personal life that's going on in my employee's life, because to me that's relevant. That's important that you understand what conditions this person's experiencing. Here's the numbers, here's the business. We're always going to get that, right? But having that human emotion, that human connection, and people, when they know that their sales leader goes to bat for them, when they know their sales leader sees them as a human and is going to mention them that way, it develops this huge amount of loyalty and respect. And those things are very challenging to earn, easy to lose, challenging to earn, and they're only earned over time. So I really, really like that. Hey, I wanted to take a quick minute and interrupt this episode for a second. I hope you're enjoying what you've heard thus far. Are you a sales professional, or do you manage a team of sales professionals? I imagine you know someone who struggles with complacency. I'm talking about the sales rep who has all the tools to be a top performer, but just can't seem to get past the mental hurdle that is holding them back. I completely understand and I relate with you. That is why I've created a detailed approach on how to get out of this stage of complacency and put yourself in position to achieve your next sales goal. Be sure to visit my website, catapultingcommissions.com. Once there, you can find the link to pick up a copy of my international best-selling book, Catapulting Commissions. Now, let's get back to our show. So if we get into this sales leadership, right? Now, if I had to pinpoint one mind shift, right? We talked about, and we're going to piggyback here soon to talk about your book and talk about the 3-4 coaching model. But on this last topic of sales leadership, someone becomes a brand new sales leadership. What's the one mind shift that they have to change first? Is it that emotions? Is it who my clients are? What is the one thing that they look at and say, okay, I became a leader. Today, my mind has to shift this direction. What is that?
I think the single most important one is there are multiple pathways to success.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? So you may have one way, which maybe 10 steps, that has ensured that you have a closing rate of 85% and above, right? But it doesn't mean that everyone can follow that 10 steps. I think I should qualify that. You cannot expect people, people cannot follow and should not follow your 10 steps.
Okay.
Because everyone fundamentally is different. So that's also linked back to, don't tell people just do this, just do that, because then you are not validating their uniqueness. You're not even recognizing their uniqueness, that everyone is wired differently. And what we need to do is to coach them, to ask them questions, to help them see their own greatness, and then devise their own pathway to success. And as long as the outcomes, the goals are clear, there are really infinite numbers of pathways that they can achieve that outcome and goal within reasonable limit. I mean, if there are ethical limits, of course, let's adhere to those. It should be something aligned with the common good. If that is a expectation, I think all businesses must have that. Then there are so many ways to achieve the outcomes.
I like that. I like what you said right there, that our approach when we come to sales leadership, we feel that we're more successful because we did it our way. But now we manage a team and everyone has a unique way to get there. And you may lay the correct foundation, and this may be the way that I did it, but it doesn't mean it has to be the way that you have to do that. And when sales leaders learn that, it creates a new level of leadership, a new heightened level of leadership that allows you to dive deep with your people. Speaking of leadership, let's talk a little bit about your book here. So your book became an international best-selling book. It's called The 8 Paradoxes of Leadership Agility. What is the premise behind that? How did that book come to life? What was the goal or the idea behind bringing that book to market?
The goal behind the book, of course, to grow my business. That's part of the sales.
Absolutely. We are all salespeople listening to this show.
Yeah. For me, it was a difficult process to step into the sales role. A lot of people might not agree that, but deep down, I'm an introvert. So I'm an introverted salesperson. There's this, of course, this dream that I want to serve as many leaders as I want. Dr. John Maxwell also said, I think this came from somebody else, but he quoted in one of his teachings that there are 7 influences of society, and education was one of them. So I was in education for so many years, molding young lives, young minds, and inculcating this belief of what good leadership meant. What does it mean to serve others, to place others before yourself? And then there is businesses as well. So I realized that I can create a much larger impact if I work with leaders, because think of it this way. There is always this trickling down effect. If you work with a good leader, you know what it does to people's well-being. And when you are able to increase sense of well-being, you will also impact their families, their children, right? Which then collectively, it creates this ripple effect across families, and then expands into societies, into nations as well. So there is the drive to want to put out something. I've worked with so many leaders. Can I consolidate all these and crystallize it into something that serves others. What are the common pain points? What are the problems that need solving that will very easily elevate the quality of leadership in any person? Because if I work just one-on-one with people, I'm limited by my time. What if I write a book that lifts everyone together? As long as I grab a copy of the book, they can learn the principles. So that's my one of the objectives. The other objective is the premise behind it, provide a simple solution to the complex problem.
I like that.
Leadership is complex. I think if you have 10 people in the room, everyone will define leadership in different ways. There are the nuances that will be different. Even if they have the same personal values, they will espouse it very differently. So I wanted a very simple book that captures all these points together, yet at the same time allow them enough breadth to make it their own, to define it for themselves. For example, the Re4 coaching model, there are just 4 simple steps. But there is at no point in time a prescribed solution. There is a sample solution. It's like what you said just now. This is how I became successful as a salesperson. This is my way. You may have other ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is constructed in that same way as well. It provides a frame enough to provide a structure, but also a lot of flexibility for you to experiment and put in something that's unique to you and make it your own.
I like that. So in creating this book, you mentioned that, you want to impact and motivate and inspire leaders, right? I mean, because leaders, right, if we go one-to-one, I mean, there's only so much time in the day. But if you go and you make a difference in the leader, then the leader can then make that difference in the trickle down effect you referenced earlier. I really think that resonates well with this audience. Is we have an audience here of people who are sales entrepreneurs or sales professionals that want to be in leadership, or they already are in leadership. And so hearing that is phenomenal. And a copy of that book, we will have a copy of that book of the link in the show notes. Again, it's the 8 Paradoxes of Leadership Agility. You can get a physical hard copy. You can get a version downloaded on Kindle. You can also, I'll leave a link to Chuen Chuen's website where you can also get that straight from there. So you mentioned the Re4 coaching model and you talked about like a simple solution. Can I extract like a high level bird's eye view? What exactly is the Re4 coaching model? Like you made it seem very simple. I know we talked just briefly about it, but can I get a little bit more from you on that?
Sure. The first 2 steps I have mentioned just now earlier, but let me recap it for you. I didn't make it explicit back then. So there are 4 steps, and why Re4? Every step starts with a redoing something. So step 1 is reconstruct the map. And the why I call the map, there is this saying, the map is not the territory.
Okay.
The map maker interprets what is in reality and puts it on the map, right? So it is through somebody's lens. So when we reconstruct the map, it is really an unbiased, courageous reality check. If things are not working, let's be honest and accept that it is not working. If things are going well, then let's give ourselves a pat on the shoulder. So I think it works both ways, both in the negative and the positive. So this is important because it leads to a recognition of truths in the context, which could be very different from how they were initially perceived. There is also this book, don't leave your life in a box. So get out of the box, really look at what is really happening. So that's step 1, reconstruct the map. The second step is to refresh the lens. We all have different biases and assumptions. So if we uncover and weed out the biases, the prejudices, or overgeneralized rules that are no longer effective, perhaps they were pretty effective in the past, but because of the target audience, the people who we are working with, or the market changes like now, things may not work anymore. So once we are able to refresh the lens, it changes the way we interpret the world. Then we are ready for the third step. The third step is to renew the identity. So this step is, for example, a sales professional who steps into the sales leader role for the first time. They need to look at, okay, what's that identity I have now? Am I the person who is bringing in all the numbers for the organization? Is that my sole responsibility or something else? Many may, at that point in time realized that their role is to help others find greatness. So then, how do you personify their identity? So using an image or a metaphor, I help them to anchor this shift so that they are able to quickly step into the role. So instead of somebody who is charging forward and telling people just do steps 1 to 10, how does helping people find the greatness look like? Would it mean that I'm alongside them? I'm beside them? Am I a facilitator? Am I somebody who provides the best conditions and provides them with all the resources that's required so that they can be successful? So they don't have to worry about things that are not within their control. There are probably more control I have in creating the environment for them, the ideal environment so that they can thrive. So that will be renew the identity. And the last part is rebuild the capabilities. This is also one of the things, one of the features I wanted to have in my book. I don't want just to have a lot of information, theoretical knowledge, and then no means for you to translate them into action. So rebuild the capabilities talks about, all right, I have the mindset shift. Is there a knowledge gap? Is there a skills gap? What are the new competencies I need to develop, and how am I going to get there? So in my coaching, I do that a lot with clients too. Of course, there are, because there's a lot of influencing that has to be done for various stakeholders. So one of the key things we use is storytelling frameworks. Which storytelling framework do I like? There's so many out there, right? We can't say this is the only one you must use. No, I think everyone have to find their own or even create their own storytelling frameworks that always works for them, just like that. There are also the strategic thinking frameworks that I use with clients as well so that they can analyze problems much faster and more accurately. So there are skills and capabilities to be rebuilt. Then that will be the last step.
I like that. So the Re4 coaching model. So for just so I'm clear here, when someone goes through this coaching model with you, you go through the 4 steps. You reconstruct the map, refresh the lens, renew the identity, and rebuild the capabilities.
Exactly.
In your program, as you coach them, you get leaders to go through that program and make a pivotal shift that can help implement a higher level of success.
Yes.
Fantastic, Chuen Chuen. Audience, Catapulting Commissions family, I hope you heard that loud and clear. Reconstruct the map, refresh your lens, renew your identity, and rebuild the capabilities. That 4 principles right there can make a difference in this upcoming sales week, in this upcoming sales month, in this upcoming sales year. We always discuss on Catapulting Commissions, it is important that we find people we can extract information from to help further facilitate and grow. And the Re4 coaching model by Chuen Chuen Yeo is one of those models that you can definitely learn a lot from. So Chuen Chuen, as we wrap this up, I want to say thank you for being a guest today. We've learned so much from you. If someone wants to work with you or get to know more about you, how can they find out about you?
Sure. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So reaching out via LinkedIn would be one good way. I would also suggest that people go to my website. If coaching is something that they like or customized workshops is what they want, there are clear descriptions. I think the sales copy there is done really well. I hope. I would love to hear the comments and the critique. Please, criticism and constructive feedback is always very welcome. And my website would be www.asense.com. And I'm sure Anthony will put up the link as well.
Absolutely. I'll put up the links both to the website, both to Chuen Chuen's LinkedIn profile. You'll also find this if you're listening to the audio version of this and you're driving in your car or you're traveling, etc., on iTunes, Stitcher. Just click the link. You can get to the website where you can download the show notes. You can also get an opportunity and follow our social media profile, Anthony P. Garcia 99. That's where we'll share a lot of content from this episode. If you're on YouTube and you're watching the video format, all the show notes and all the links will be below in the notes section of YouTube. Chuen Chuen, I am ecstatic and I am very humbled and honored that you were able to spend time with us today. I know that the time difference for you and me is completely night and day. So I do appreciate you making it available to join the Catapulting Commission show. We wish you nothing but much success, and we look forward to hearing how your business grows and love to bring you back here in a year or two from now and see what has changed from when we first started. Sound fair?
Yes, that's great. Hope to stay connected.
Absolutely, Chuen Chuen. Thank you so much. Catapulting Commissions family, you heard it here today. Chuen Chuen Yeo, The Reform Model, The 8 Paradoxes of Leadership Agility. Get the book, leave your comments, use the hashtag Catapulting Commissions. I'll see you on the next one. Well, that does it for today's episode on Catapulting Commissions with Anthony Garcia. If you found some value in today's show, please be sure to head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. Don't forget to subscribe to Catapulting Commissions. That way you get notified of new episodes every week. Lastly, please take a screenshot of today's show and share it on Instagram. Every week, I'll be giving away a signed copy of my best-selling book to one person who tags me at Anthony P. Garcia 99 and includes the hashtag Catapulting Commissions. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to helping you achieve higher commissions.